gang, gang. Hey, nothing but love and respect. You might have some cool fans, but mine are the best. We've been through it all, went to war when duty called. Never left a man behind, we move as one is super strong. I don't want followers, that implies I'm the leader. I'm not the captain, I just gave them something they can believe in. I hold the lamp in the darkness, but they're the light that I needed to see the road that we walk in between the angels and demons. And my fans have my back. Hate us if your feelings don't like facts. And my fans will fight back. Beat you with the keyboard you've been using to write back. I guess we need each other like both sides of the battery. We the army, we the homies, we the gang, we the cavalry. We're brothers and sisters, we hold it down like we gravity. Can't nobody break the bond that made us all family. Me and my fans, we don't care what anybody say. Middle fingers to whoever in the way, man. Me and my fans, we gon' be together to the grave. It's the game till forever and the day, man. Me and my fans, we don't even trip in the hate. We the own in our veins, man. Me and my fans, we the hangover gang. Gang, 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 gang.
Oklahoma weather can dish out some of the worst punishment in the world. Hi everyone, I'm meteorologist Tuttle. But now you can fight back by installing Class 4 impact-resistant shingles from Ferguson Roof Systems. These shingles can withstand large hail, heavy rain, and hurricane-force winds, all while keeping your home safe and dry. And the best part? This upgrade is completely free for many homeowners. So call today to start reaping the benefits these Class 4 shingles bring, including a discount on home insurance. Only at FergusonRoofSystems.com.
Hey there everyone, Meteorologist Tuttle back with you again to talk about the weather for the next few days. We have obviously some big changes that have already taken place, and we're about to have some bigger changes on the road after that. So good news is, I'm not here for tornadoes, so no tornadoes coming up for tonight. So that's a welcome relief, my goodness. I'm so sick of tornadoes, right? That's just kind of the way it is. But we do have a mini severe weather season in the fall. It runs from October to about a couple of weeks of November typically. We don't always see anything. Sometimes a very quiet season. But this time around, we did have a few active days here for October. So season's not quite over yet, but is there going to be anything in the near term? We'll talk about that as well, as if we're going to see any of that snow. Your forecast for Halloween. What else we got? The winds that will be kicking in here already today. That will get stronger tonight and tomorrow. We'll talk about that too. So we've got a lot on the plate to discuss, so I'm glad you're with me. Okay, so first things first, let me, if you guys on Facebook that would like to get notified from me, I've been kind of doing this lately the last few days since this is kind of a new thing. You can click on this link that I just posted in the comments section if you're having trouble getting live notifications when I do go live out there. And that way when you get that, I will have actually a message sent directly to you from me that I'm going live. So you need to manage messages once you get that, and that will set you up for the next live broadcast. All right, so out there currently, cloudy. So we have some peaks though of some clear skies. I see them intermixed the clouds, and temperatures are quite a bit cooler today. We're in the 50s here right now, 55 degrees, northwest wind sustained around 20 miles per hour, gust to 32 here on this weather station. But we've seen some stronger gusts than that here across central and northern Oklahoma, which I will show you on the map as well. All right, also what we've seen is some decent rainfall. I mean, look at these totals. This is anywhere from, about half an inch here over central Oklahoma, kind of the I-35 corridor. A little bit more down here in southwest Oklahoma, close to an inch in some areas. And then definitely an inch or more out here in eastern Oklahoma and far northeast Oklahoma. So some good rains out of the storm system, although it did come with a little bit of severe weather. And on the backside of this upper level storm system is the winds that are cranking up. So this is a look at kind of how things are going right now. You do see some 30s and 40s, a gust of 50 in Minco. There's 42 in Lahoma. There's a little pink area, which indicates winds a little higher than that. So that's just currently, and then when you look at it, it's kind of the peak gusts all day today so far. You can see where the wind has been the heaviest this afternoon, into the 50s to low 60s. Keep in mind, a severe thunderstorm criteria wind gust is around 58 miles per hour. So this technically qualifies as a severe thunderstorm wind gust, which can do some damage. So hence, we're going to have some of that here for tonight and tomorrow across Oklahoma. All right, and of course, Tulsa's already talking about that as well. They'll see some of the stronger winds, I think, in the peak of this event, but they're kind of, this graphic is a little more on the conservative side. They still have lots of deep purple in there for winds close to 60 miles per hour overnight hours into tomorrow morning. But really, the rest of the state is seeing some pretty good wind too. Now, if you look at the severe weather outlook across the nation for the next several days, nothing happening. Looking good, right? So there's your short-term answer to that question as to whether or not we're going to see some more severe weather anytime soon. All right, so here's a look at how things are progressed for the remainder of this evening. Oh, you know what? Let me show you this real quick. So this is the current radar view. We do have some light showers up here in northwest Oklahoma. So this is kind of wrapping around the backside of that upper level low. And if I were to toggle those showers off, you can see the white areas where the strongest winds are currently. As we talked about, we do have some winds gusting up around 40 miles an hour or so in this area. So this is kind of just what will be the case overnight tonight. Okay, so rainfall amounts then for at least the heavy stuff. Let me go to the latest data here. That was the morning data. All right, so latest data here. Doesn't pick up on that light stuff in northern Oklahoma very well. It kind of hints at it here, but it's misplaced. This model hasn't done very well at the rainfall amounts, but at least has a general idea. So it has some of those showers again tonight off and on, kind of scattered here, mainly across the northeastern quadrant of Oklahoma. So that's bounded by I-35 that runs north out of Oklahoma City, and then I-40 east, so kind of mostly in that area, give or take. So that's through the overnight hours into tomorrow morning. So that'll be a little wet for you out there in Tulsa for your morning commute tomorrow. As we go through the day tomorrow, the rainfall and showers continue out there along with the cloud cover through the afternoon. There's 2 to 4 to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so you can see light rain continues. As we go on further in time, it still kind of hangs in there for a little bit longer up to about Thursday night. And then by Friday morning, looks like just a few sprinkles kind of hanging in there, and then that's about it. So the storm system that came through Oklahoma kind of put the brakes on, and it didn't really exit the state with any speed, I'm afraid. All right, now what happens underneath that upper level low is going to be some winds. Let's take a look at the estimated windfall forecast. Now, this is almost like being in a tropical storm. All right, so think of a hurricane status. You got winds of 75 miles an hour. We won't be that, but we'll be tropical storm force winds, anything over 40 to 50 here across the state. And you'll see that kind of showing up in the yellow and brown areas for overnight tonight. So you can see how most of the quarter of the winds is through where they are now, which is north central and central Oklahoma, and then into eastern Oklahoma. There's gusts here in the brown up to around 50 miles an hour. So quite windy for you guys up there in the Tulsa area in Bartlesville. And then the afternoon, as some of that air mixes out, we get some of the cloud cover. The models really crank up the wind statewide. I mean, all this yellow was equal to widespread winds of 50 miles per hour with gusts higher than that. The little brown shadings closer to 60 maybe at times. So again, that's severe thunderstorm criteria wind. This is all day on Thursday, my goodness. It does start to diminish though. Here's 6 o'clock Thursday evening, so the winds do start to come down. And then by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, it's still windy in far eastern Oklahoma, but at least it's not as bad across the rest of the state yet. And there's Friday morning, the wind's still hanging in there for a little bit, but I think they'll diminish quite a bit faster than what the models indicate here. But just go to show you, a little breezy. It'll be an understatement. You're going to want to hang on to everything when you head out the door. And hold on to those car doors. They will slam open with a vengeance. And you will slam into the car next to you. You will have that feeling in the pit of your stomach. And if that person walks out and sees you, you're going to have 2 pits in the feeling of your stomach. So just hold on to your car door. Just alleviate that whole situation. All right, here's a look at the nationwide view. Where is the next cold front? And are we going to see some snow? Let's get on with it, shall we? Storm system again out here to our east continues to slowly wrap up and move across the rest of the eastern part of the country here for the next couple of days. What we're going to watch for is up to the north is a strong cold front start to come in from Canada. So what we're looking for is a surface area of high pressure that builds up here and just kind of works its way down south into our neck of the woods. So let's see what happens. So we're on a Sunday right now. Oh, look at that. Look what I just see come in. All right, so this little line right here, that kind of comes in and be a crude drawing, but we're looking right about here. So that's the cold front that comes in over the part of the weekend for Saturday night, Sunday morning. This is the surface high pressure right here, and this is the cold air mass spilling southward. So this is our first good shot of some chilly air for the fall. Now you do see a little bit of snow breakout, but that's going to be across Nebraska, Kansas, so not quite here in Oklahoma. A little mixed, wintry mix there for Monday morning up in that area. Nothing too heavy, but again, that's just kind of the first wave that moves on by. Then you can see that little high pressure kind of centers in over Kansas, so pretty close here to Oklahoma. So pretty good cold mornings with that situation. It does produce a little bit of light rainfall, though, some chilly rain on Tuesday, northeast Oklahoma. We'll get to a close-up view of this here in a minute, and that's in advance of an upper-level storm system coming on across, which we had looked at, remember, a day or two ago, and it had indicated some snow mixed in with it. Now this time around, it's got the secondary surge of colder air bottled up right about here, trying to come in on the backside of this. So it's probably going to arrive a little too late to do that, at least it looks right now. Now, we still have plenty of days to look at this. This is next Wednesday morning of all things, but right now it looks like the best snow chance with this at this time is going to be in the Colorado and out here across maybe northeastern New Mexico. Meanwhile, that little high pressure builds on in, another little round there, some snow. So you're starting to see snow now 3 times on the map, but it's just not quite here. However, this did bring in a few flurries across northern Oklahoma on the 5th of the month. So that's next Friday. So the first week of November is going to be a little shock to your system with repetitive cold fronts, and yes, some of that blue stuff showing up on the radar maps, and then the white stuff falling down from the sky. And that's the third area of high pressure building in. 1, 2, and 3. So we're going to get a little cool, and with that comes below normal temperature. So they're pretty stout. This is a look at the temperature anomaly. In other words, if you were just to take a look at kind of how far it departs from normal, what you really want to focus on is the blue. All right, the blue is the colder temperatures, which we have in departing of this last storm system, quickly kind of touching us a little bit. And then here comes the next big blue coming on through the northern part of the country and then zipping right on here in Oklahoma. And that really kind of takes over. Look at that big batch. Wow, my goodness, that's only getting on the 3rd and the 4th. Purple shadings, woo, and red shadings, deep red. Oh my goodness, that goes all the way to the 6th. And that's temperatures that are about minus 20 degrees below normal. That's what I'm talking about. That's what you call that, a blue norther. If you're new and not from around here, that's what we call those. All right, so let's take a close-up look, and we'll get your Halloween forecast. So first off, now we did mention some rainfall coming back in the picture after this little system departs here, through Thursday night. So where are we? Are we on Monday the 1st? So we get through the weekend, looks like pretty dry. That next front that comes in looks like it'll be dry. So no precipitation for your Halloween. But temperatures will be a little cool. We'll show that here in a second. Let's see. So the first, there's a couple of signals of a few clouds, probably a few spotty showers. No big signal. On the 2nd, November 2nd, on Tuesday, we do have some better rain signal there in northeast Oklahoma. As that next front approaches on the 3rd, more shower, maybe a couple of thunderstorms showing up in the data for that day, even here in Oklahoma City proper. So again, that's on Wednesday the 3rd of next week. And then that kind of meagers around here for the rest of Wednesday. That kind of moves on out. And then here's that little snow signal that keeps wanting to show its ugly head, unless you want this. Let's see, that's on the 5th, so some light snow. Look like all the way down to Canadian County. Again, we'll see what happens with this. Way too early to get too excited, but just want to show you it's out there. It's on the map, so maybe some monkey business in here around the 4th and 5th of November with a push of that next cold front system. All right, temperatures. Let's get to you here for a while. Now, of course, it was chilly today. We're in the 50s and some 60s. So tomorrow is kind of a repeat performance for most of the day, and then we'll break out some sunshine. We'll hit into the 60s there, at least briefly. So some low, maybe some mid 60s for your Thursday. Except for far eastern Oklahoma, you'll still be a little socked in. The clouds and rain will be a little cooler. So let's go to Friday. We're back into the 50s for daytime highs. A little chilly on Friday. That means Saturday morning will be a little cool for you. How about some 40s for morning lows? And you're going to wait till you see the morning lows here in a couple days after that. Saturday, by the way, we'll be back into the 60s, so not bad. If you have any Halloween parties for the adults to go out, it'll be a little chilly for you if you're going to be out in a patio somewhere. All right, so on Sunday, we're back into the 60s again. So remember, the front that comes in the weekend is the first of many, and it's not the strongest. It's kind of the leading wave, kind of set the stage. But here's Sunday evening, about 7 o'clock. So as the kids head out for trick-or-treating, it looks like we'll be cooling into the lower 50s. So it's kind of chilly for them, so keep that in mind. And then overnight into Monday morning, we'll be back into the mid-40s. And then I'm just going to keep fast-forwarding on to something that ought to shock you a little bit. And that is temperatures Thursday morning on the 4th. You see that blue? This is the freezing line. Could we be dealing with an Oklahoma freeze over a pretty good area of the state by next week? I believe the answer to that is yes. So we'll be back in the 30s there for that Thursday, the 4th, and maybe even the 5th. Depends on if clouds clear out and some other things happen. But it's got Oklahoma City right around 34 degrees, so it's close enough for a little touch and go forecast on the freeze. And you can see that cold blue shading of temperatures sticks around. On Saturday the 6th, it's even colder. It's got us officially at 32 degrees in the 20s in north and west Oklahoma. So I hope you're ready for this. I hope you're ready for a freeze, guys. It's, I don't know if you call it early, but it's going to be a good one. It's about this time of the year that happened anyway, so we're going to have a good freeze coming up. So some of you folks cheer because it gets rid of some of the bugs. It doesn't really necessarily kill them, although it may kill some, is it sends them all into hiding. And then they come back out once we get into the spring. But hey, at least we get rid of them for a little bit. So what that means is for us is our outlook for below normal temperatures in blue here, which is a, good grief, what is that, a 60, 70% below normal shading. So that's some good cooler air. And then we talk about rainfall amounts. Most of the action, as you recall, was in eastern Oklahoma beginning of this week. The beginning of this forecast period. We're now on Wednesday, Aaron. Pay attention. And then we'll get that other round that comes in here and develops as we head into, what was that? This might actually probably beyond that time period. Yeah, this is in the 3rd. So it'll pick up some of those little spotty showers you saw in the 1st and 2nd. But otherwise, the next big wave of rain will probably just after this forecast period ends. All right, temperature-wise, we're looking at the Oklahoma City metro area on a 10-day outlook. You can see 60s here, pretty much predominant for a while. Do get some 50s here on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. Now, keep in mind, these little extended outlook temperatures are subject to change a little bit. Some massaging. For example, this panel has a low of 37, but we just saw other computer model that indicated down to freezing. So we're going to have some wiggle room. A lot of it depends upon cloud cover at the time. It depends on just exactly how cold that air mass is that comes out of Canada. Because remember, it's building right now. So this is all model estimates at this point in time. As we get closer, we'll have a better idea as to how cold it's going to be. But it's indicating cold enough that we might have to worry about a freeze. And then we'll see if we can get a little bit of snow here in Oklahoma at some point here during this period. So that signal continues to show. It may not be the cleanest, prettiest signal, but usually what happens is, what I like to do anyway, I watch these long-range models and I look for a signal in the noise. And the question is that signal, is it transient? In other words, is it there 1 minute and gone the next and I don't see it again? Or does it just show up off and on and it kind of moves around? That usually builds more confidence that something's going to happen. Then as we get closer to it, we start to try to narrow down the time frame a little bit better, and then how much, that kind of stuff. Just like tornadoes, though, just so you know, I'll talk about those about 48 hours before the event, because too many things can change prior to that, which will mess your forecast up, and then you get everybody in a panic for nothing, right? So you don't want to panic people unnecessarily. So usually it's about 2 days prior to an event where the data starts to get good enough to where you can start really getting into that. Same thing with snow. Snow's the same idea. And remember, it was this time last year, we were all buried in ice. Well, not all of us. I was buried in a hurricane in Cancun. But other than that, the rest of you are probably buried in ice here in Oklahoma. So things can get really haywire in the fall real quick, with a quickness. So we'll see if anything like that happens. And about 40 hours out, I like to talk about the snowfall totals there. Sometimes I'll kind of show you a map to give you an idea of at least what the models think may occur, but then I'm going to downplay it or tell you not to take it for what it is. But you will see that shared on social media, just so you know, this is the way this game's played now. Everything's clickbait. And clickbait wins, and that's why it's done. You guys can't help yourself. It's brain, train your brain. It's the whole idea, like when there's an accident on the side of the road and everybody has to slow down and look, see what's going on. Same thing. You cannot stop yourself. Actually, I challenge you to stop yourself. I challenge you not to look at the car. You just look straight ahead. Don't slow down. Keep going. I bet you can't do it. All right. Same thing with clickbait on snowfall maps. You can't help yourself. I get it. It's a human condition. We're wired for drama and chaos. I don't understand it, but we are. So whenever you see those maps being shared on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, laugh it off. Just say, yeah, we'll see. That's what I do. I laugh it off. I say, yeah, we'll see. So if that's my approach as a scientist that looks at this stuff, that should be your approach too. I definitely wouldn't run out and buy all the milk and bread. Unless, of course, it's because of COVID and all. And then we have a shortage from the truckers and the ports and the this and the that. And it all runs in together and there's nothing left on the shelves. Well, then you might want to run and buy some now because there won't be any by the time we get our first snow. But that's a whole nother economic issue that I don't really dive into. And I don't have the answers for. I wish I did. But anyway, so there you go. That's a quick look at that was an extended look of your forecast here as we head into time all the way through our first full week of November. And of course, I'll watch that trend off and on here with time. And as soon as I can get a good bullseye, so to speak, on that stuff, then I will let you know, and then we can start talking about amounts and locations and timing and all that good stuff. All right, so just checking your comments here real quick before I sign off. Jim in Mustangs had almost half an inch of rain this morning. Good for you, brother. Let's see. Hayden wants to know about anything happening for South Carolina, and what about what's going on in Virginia. So here's where I have to answer a tough question on that one. A lot of time, and I got New England. It's fucking creep. There may be a time coming soon. Who knows? Only God knows what's going to happen in my future. But I am set up to where I could potentially cover the nation and weather, right? Nationwide. Right now I cover Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, Arkansas. I kind of focus on this region, the southern region, southern plains, especially when it comes to tornado coverage and then usually forecasting deals. If for whatever reason things do change in the environment because of COVID and all, maybe I will change and we'll do something different, and then we'll end up covering the country, the nation weather. And then when it comes to tornadoes, maybe I'll cover every state that's going to have tornado outbreaks. I will butcher a lot of town names as a result of that, but at least I'll get it covered, and you'll get it see done right from a radar meteorologist that knows radar really well, and storm structure and forecasting ability in real time of tornado development. So I think that'll be beneficial. I think it'll help. It's just that's a whole job. So I ain't got time for that right now. But so I do appreciate your questions though about other parts of the country, and that's what I was kind of getting to. So hold that thought, as they say, and I'll be right back. Okay, let me go to the main page here and load up the broadcast on Facebook, and then if you guys have any questions, let me do those here real quick. All right. By the way, thanks for all the love out there on the stars and the hearts and the likes. Let's see. Will it freeze in hell this year? I don't know what's going on. Honestly, I just do not know what's going on. I do know that I sometimes have to just check out of the world, man. There's some, the funny thing is there's a lot of people that are rotten, right? We all know this. But there's some peace in ignorance. In other words, if you don't know about all the rotten people out there, and you're in your own little bubble, in your own little thing, life is peachy and grand, right? Well, social media can open up the world of the rotten on display for the world to see. And when you see that, oh my gosh, that is hard to deal with, because you're supposed to be that loving Christian attitude of your fellow neighbor. Seeing that some of that stuff makes me want to give a backhand. It's a loving backhand to society. So sometimes I gotta tune that stuff out just because I don't want to see that, right? I want to picture everybody being nice and kind to one another and loving, and it ain't the real world. So I think maybe we're all in a matrix and there's a glitch and the computer codes, there's a bug in it. This is what 2020 and 2021 looks like. Well, you're the matrix that's gone haywire. So I don't know what to say. I sometimes have to laugh it off as a joke and just pretend like this is all a simulation. That's how I get through the day, so I don't lose my marbles. But anyway, but I'm gonna stick with the weather because to me it's sane, it's easy, it's sometimes fun and sometimes exciting. And of course, sometimes exciting the wrong way. So last night we'd have a tornado, by the way, in just northeast of Norman. So if you're watching me, we're talking about a circulation that was developing west of Norman. Remember I told you it was broad, but it was there, and I was like, I'm gonna keep an eye on this one and may try to tighten up. Well, it went all the way through Norman, keeping that configuration. Just as it got northeast of town, or on the northeast side of town rather, it tightened up, and then it produced a tornado around Tecumseh, and I forgot the cross section. So from that point forward, we tracked the tornado after that, run over the Nextrad radar site, and did a little bit of damage. I don't know how much. I did see a couple of houses and trees, but I don't know anything more than that. But so that's what we do when it comes to severe weather. I'll track those tornadoes for you, and it's interesting. We can do some things differently now with the radar technology in a lot of cases, as long as the storms are close enough to the radar to where we can do it street by street. versus county by county. In the old days, we say, oh, the entire county take cover. Well, that's silly, obviously, today. So now we can say, this section of town take cover, or we can get even more specific where we can say, if you're 4.5 miles southwest of this and you're at the intersection of this and this, take cover. And it's going to move into this next intersection here of this and this. If you're there, take cover. If you're in this neighborhood over from there, take cover. So that's a pretty good thing we can do now with radar meteorology and forecasting and tracking tornadoes in real time, which is good for you because it keeps you safe and it prevents unnecessary panic from others. I know, and that was an issue last night, and I wish I could see all of your comments and posts during these live broadcasts, but I get a lot of the repeat, which is, hey, I've got storms over here in my house. What are they doing? And my short answer is always going to be, if I'm not talking about you, that's a good thing. You don't want to be talked about. You don't want me to bring up your city. Because usually if I do that, it's usually because that's something that's got my attention, right? And what gets my attention? Tornadoes, or something that's about to be a tornado, or extremely large hail, or extremely damaging winds. So like last night, I think in Edmond, we had a lady there in Edmond saying, or a couple, I think people were saying, hey, what's going on in Edmond? Well, it was rain. It's thunderstorm. No big deal. I live on the west side of Edmond, and I was looking at the wind gusts live on my weather station. I think we hit 49 miles per hour, and I was like, hey, the wind's blowing out there. It's pretty good. And that was all it was, and it was over. So I can understand you do hear the wind howling out there. You assume the worst. But just keep in mind that we're talking about storms. A lot of them aren't severe. And the ones that are typically borderline, which means they're not that bad. So like, for example, last night, you take away that tornado northeast of Norman, the rest of the line that moved through Oklahoma City, north and south, just on the west side of I-35, going through I-35 corridor was really weak. It was a sad-looking storm line, and it really wasn't severe. I mean, there was borderline in a couple pockets around town, and you really had to stretch the imagination to make that severe. But it was that little tornado threat that was the cause, and because those QLCS-type tornadoes on the leading edge can develop, and of course that is a severe event, but it's just a different type of severe event, whereas you can have the storm itself just be nothing but heavy rain and lightning and no hail, and it can behave itself on the wind. But a lot of times in those particular cases, at least with last night, when you have winds aloft just off the ground that are up around 50 or 60 knots, some of that air can easily be transported in a downdraft real quick. So even though the entire line is not severe, hasn't been, won't be, all of a sudden you get one cell that collapses and a downdraft forms, and it taps in any of that extra momentum, and you can get that quick rush of air at the ground, lasts for a few seconds, and there you technically had a severe downburst, right? So you have to kind of keep a severe thunderstorm warning going just in case that happens. So a lot of it was a just in case, and you get some of those. Now that doesn't bode well for verification, right? Because you want, when you're issuing the warnings, you obviously don't want to issue false alarms, right? So you want everything to count. So if I issue a tornado warning, there better be a tornado. If I issue a severe thunderstorm warning, there better be a severe thunderstorm. Because if it's not, it goes against me. And then the bean counters will come in and say, hey, you issued a lot of warnings that didn't pan out. We've got no verification. No reports of hail, no reports of wind, no reports of tornadoes. What's going on in here? Do we need to get somebody else in here pressing the buttons? So you don't want to go down that road. So you can be very careful when you try to toe that line, and plus you don't want the boy that cried wolf, and start issuing a bunch of false things that, and all of a sudden the storms aren't that bad, and everybody starts to not care anymore about the warnings. And even there was an internal discussion with Weather Service guys. How do you treat tornadoes? So in the old days, a tornado warning was all you needed. You get a tornado warning out, and everybody's going to lose their mind, right? They're all paying attention. They're all hitting the shelters and everything else. Today's day and age, they're like, I'm busy playing my game, or whatever. So it's kind of like, how do you increase the magnitude of the wording to make it more serious? And so you keep upping the ante. So now you get to the point where you have, tornado, a possible tornado, Doppler indicated, radar indicated tornado, confirmed tornado, damaging tornado, and then you have tornado emergency. Now, obviously, the tornado itself is an emergency, But it was like, how do we get this stronger wording across that says, hey, dummy, tornado emergency really means, holy heck, there's a big tornado and it's doing damage and it's coming in your direction, right? So you can increase that wording, because everybody says tornado emergency. Well, I don't know. That sounds a lot worse than the tornado, right? Is that a difference? Because it sounds worse. Well, it's because it is. Now, again, the old days, you could have said tornado would have been just fine. But now we say tornado emergency in those cases. So you're going to hear that a lot more in the wording. I see your comment on YouTube, Deborah. So, it's trying to keep your attention, because everybody's attention span is literally that of a gnat. You got 3 seconds to keep somebody. So here, me, like for example, as a content creator, when I go live, I'll lose a few people right off the bat because they want to wait for the intro. That's fine. I mean, you're busy. I get it. But then everybody else will stay. And then you watch what you're kind of interested in, then you kind of trail off. So there's always a trailing off period in anything you do. I trail off. I'll start a video and I'm like, you know what, that's too long. I ain't got time to watch that. And it might be something I'm interested in, but I'm not that interested, right? Or something else that's got my attention is far more important than what that is. I'll come back to it. I never do. I'm just like the rest of you guys, so I understand that. So in my mind, I'm always conscious of the new world we live on, the tech side and the social media side, of trying to give you what you need as fast as I can, as best I can, but still tell a story, still educate you, still give you something that interests you, right? So a lot of what I do is more of an educational approach, which is different than what we could do in TV. I say we in TV, this is TV, but what we could do at the news stations, because we only had 3.5 minutes. And again, all that stuff is timed out from consultants on how much you will spend on a segment of the news to watch before you start to fade away. You guys have no idea. You're guinea pigs for everything. Everything has been studied till it's blue in the face. That's how propaganda works. That's how you're using your emotions for fear, motivation, spending dollars and cents. This is all old stuff. It's been going on for decades. So it's nothing new, but they use that to build the platform and the business model. So anyway, for weather in that industry, on average, we had about 3 minutes to talk. And we crammed you full of graphics one after another, and we repeated it over and over and over, whether you realized it or not. We say the same thing 3 different ways to Sunday, so that you would get it, right? Kind of like reinforcing. And basically, so it was a forecast, really, just in different ways of presentation. But it didn't leave a lot of time to do much explaining. Sometimes you could squeeze in a little 20-second lesson, right? Well, try to bring down meteorology into 20 seconds to a layman level to where anyone can get it, from child to adult. That's a pretty hard task. So in the TV world, you don't get a lot of that because of that. And I used to do it all the time. I'd make the time and try to do it. I usually did this jet stream, or I used the water vapor loop. Those are some easy deals. And maybe if we got on the like dry line discussions or the cap discussion, it's trying to sneak those in. But otherwise, you didn't have a whole lot of time for that. Now, here, this format, I can teach you guys my entire encyclopedia of knowledge up here. What's left? COVID, took some of it. I swear, that was the biggest thing I think I had, was the brain cell destruction. I don't even drink. It's probably like I just drank 10 years worth in 1 week. But anyway, so yeah, outside of that, I do try to share with you most of my knowledge on that aspect as we go through it, so you can learn it along with me. And we got plenty of time in this format to explain it. And when you're in a learning stage about storm structure and environment and tornadoes or whatever, all of a sudden you're engaging your prefrontal cortex, and this fear section of your brain has stopped. And it's like, oh, what's that? Well, that's interesting. Tell me more. Okay. All of a sudden you're not panicking. You're not anxious. You now understand what's happening. You now realize the threat doesn't even involve you. So there's a lot of things that can happen during that time. And so this format is really great for me for that, and it helps you out. So it's a win-win for everybody. And then really you can just go as long as I can sit here. We did, let's see, was it not this last night, but was it last week? I've lost count now how many days have gone by. I think it was whatever it was the last event. I think I was on for 6 hours solid. I think we went from like 9 or went from 8 p.m. to like 2 a.m. or something. I think it was, or something like that. 6.5 hours. And I was exhausted. And then I realized I hadn't gotten up once to use the restroom or get a drink. or anything. I was like, how did I do that? But that's me in my adrenaline state of just hyper-focused and helping you guys out. So that's kind of how that can work. But I can't do that all the time, obviously. I'd go crazy. But anyway, so this is a nice format to do that with. And what I was able to do here is pretty neat. When I retired, by the way, this is just me talking. So if you guys are wanting the forecast, I gave that a long time ago. If you're late, in case Facebook notified you late, remember to click on that link I posted. That way you'll get notified early. And that way that'll alleviate that problem. And the short version is rain still continues a little bit for tonight, but mostly into eastern Oklahoma for tomorrow. It should gradually, slowly drifts east. Otherwise cloudy, a little bit of rain, and very windy still. And we got wind gusts of 50, maybe even 60 miles an hour at times from central to eastern Oklahoma. Even kind of windy out west again by later in the afternoon for a little bit. So the winds will finally calm down tomorrow evening for most of us. So it'll be a windy day. And we looked at a couple of cold fronts coming in, one Saturday night, not a big one, just kind of reinforcing what we've got now, which is cooler. And then a bigger one, I think it was like the third, I've lost track, and then maybe the fifth or sixth. It's kind of like back-to-back fronts. And with a little bit of snow maybe on that latter one. We'll see. Otherwise, some rain with the second one around, Tuesday, Wednesday. So next week, a couple of events there to talk about, which we'll do in more details as we get closer to it. So that's kind of what the synopsis was, and prepare for a freeze for later next week. So what I did in that industry in television, when I retired, I kind of burned out. Like I just had enough, because there's a lot of stuff you guys have no idea goes on behind the scenes. I think I've had enough of this place, or this industry really. And I want to give you a hint. I worked the news for 12 years. Ask me if I watch the news. Go ahead. Aaron, did you watch the news? I sure didn't. I never watched the news once, because most of it was garbage. And I'm just like, what? I'm like, yeah, and this is my test. I always do this. I always tell people. I tell it to myself. Let's say you're watching the news. I want you to be able to list 3 things on your hand that you could not go to bed without knowing about, that you just had to know. I mean, your day would not be complete. Your life could not feel full or fulfilled if you didn't know these 3 things on the news. And honestly, I could never come up with any when I did halfway pay attention. So it just depends on what you're interested in. And now with the internet, you can go find what you're interested in versus what's been pre-selected for you. There is no reason to have pre-selected anything. You have the ultimate selection criteria. You can select your weather guy or weather gal or weather they, whatever you want. You can do that. You don't have to have it pre-selected for you. Think of it like the cable channels and all the TV shows, right? When back in the day you had 3 channels to pick from, all pre-selected for you. Now, whatever you want. And now it's all over the internet, Netflix, whatever. Again, you can go anywhere you want. The news model is a dying, dead dinosaur, really. They're stuck in a platform that has basically this is gone. So they don't know what else to do with it, though, so they have to keep the model until it just completely dries up. But all that stuff's pre-selected for you from a group of producers that think that you're going to want to know whatever this is. And it's if it leads, it bleeds. So it's anything that's negative. It's anything there's some death, or there's destruction, or there's drama, or there's an accident, or there's a house fire. Same stuff over and over and over. Repeat. And then I've been in some of those meetings where there's just absolutely nothing to talk about. And it's just like, we're going to put on the news today. You have to find something that you think that might get somebody's attention. And then you got to sensationalize it, amp it up, make it really eye-catching, make it really, something that's just riveting, right? And a lot of times it's fluff, or it has about 30 seconds of content when it really needs like 30 minutes of content. But again, that's not the model. So then you're forced to take in something that doesn't even really, let's say it's a gas tank, right? You're at a pump. The newscast is the pump. All right, let me go fill it up. I need 10 gallons. Well, you've got, how about a third of a gallon? Because that's all you get for this news story. Well, I needed the full 10 gallons. Sorry, we're already moving on to the next. And then, so you're not even fulfilled. You don't even fill up. And now you're just left going, well, now what do I do with this? What about this? What about that? Did anybody investigate this? Anybody know that? No, you don't know. So it's just, I'm irritated by the whole process to the point where I don't even pay attention. So if I want to know something, I go and I Google it, basically, or Brave it, whatever browser you want to use. And then I just go or Twitter or Instagram or not Instagram's just pictures, but Facebook or whatever. Believe it or not, actually, there's actually some pretty good stuff on TikTok. I don't have an account there, but Jody does. She follows some crazy accounts where, like there's this plant guy. He always comes up with some new thing to do with plants. I'm just like, you can do that? So that's educational to me. That's actually interesting. And it's a short 1 minute. I'm like, perfect. I got time for 1 minute. Plus, I get to learn something about plants. Or whatever it may be. So, something that interests you, find that time. I always kind of joke around and said, hey, that 10 to 10:30 time frame, turn the TV off, turn on a little music, dim the lights. You know where to go from there. I tell you what, you do that 5 times a week, and you think watching the newscast instead is better? Need to work on that relationship. So anyway, all right. Sarah, on YouTube, would you ever consider doing a video for kids teaching them about tornado safety? Maybe something like an educational video teaching them about what they should know for tornado season. So I have done some educational stuff that I do when I give talks, like weather talks, which is usually to kids, but it goes from kids to adults. So I kind of make it where both can understand, and of course I drop or add depending on my audience. So I have done that, and I did that on Facebook, a couple years ago. I think I made some videos. So I can always make some more, and I've had teachers ask me to do that. Now, to visit, school classes. Well, of course, this is all prior to COVID. With my day job, I couldn't do it. So I work normal hours like the rest of you. So it's not possible to do it, so I always had to say no. Now, with the advent of Zoom and video now becoming more prevalent, that may be able to open up the window to be able to do something in the future if I can get that structured right. But again, I still work during the day, so I gotta be real careful kind of what time I have to give to this and how much I gotta create. But anyway, so it's on the table as something I could consider. Brad says, you do a nice job. Can tell you've been on TV. Always been curious with all the monitors that you show in the beginning. What do you have on them all? Everything. So I built a weather studio set in here for my knowledge in television. So I basically took everything I had in the television studio and I put it right here in my home office. So that was the easy part, really. It was fun. And then actually what it did end up doing was allow me much more access to content that I could have had at the TV station. I'm limited by what the station buys, some graphics package or whatever, or access to just our radar or whatever. I can do 10 times more than that here, which is nice. So I have various sources. I'm like a computer ingesting data on the fly and then spitting it back out to you all in real time. It is a multitasking nightmare, but somehow I'm wired where I can do that at this stage in the game. I just turned 48. My brain still works. So at 58 or 68, that might be a problem. Right now, at 48, it seems to still be working all right. So we'll keep doing it as long as I can still do that. But on the monitors on the top, I've got the TV stations 4, 5, and 9. I do that because I can see their helicopter shots if they have them, or their storm chaser shots, so I can get visual. And then, because I'll have a few guys that will chase for me, but because I'm so focused on this guy here to get their live shots, I have to go and pull it up online on a video, or wait for them to page me on my phone to go pull it up. So it's easier for me just to quick glance up if I'm looking at a storm and it looks really good on the radar, but is there any confirmation of a tornado yet? Nothing's been spotted here. I can glance up and go, is a helicopter see a wall cloud? Like, yeah, typical. Or if I see a funnel, okay. So I can do that, which ironically is what we do at the TV station. So at the TV stations, we have the other guys on. Why? Because we want to know if they have something that we don't have. Because in that business is very, very, very cutthroat. So competition is fierce. So you want to know exactly what your other people are doing. And if you're not sure because your guys that you have out in the field aren't on that particular storm, but your competitors are, and they've got a picture of the tornado, and you can tell because they've keyed it on the picture on the bottom of the TV screen, and they say so and so live and whatever, and then you go, okay, we got a tornado. Now, is it considered cheating? I don't know. Maybe it's information, and you're stealing it from your competitors who are doing the same thing to you, and that's the way that goes. And then on top of that, in this market in Oklahoma, there's like no other market in the entire country. So if you live here and you think weather is done like this in every market, you are so sorely, badly mistaken. It isn't even more close. It's a good and a bad. Bad because this is over-the-top clown show. But there is some benefit in the clown show. Other stations in other parts of the country, you could beg them to go this much clown show, right? Not all of it. Don't go full clown. Maybe just some paint around the eyes, right, or the nose, just so you can get something. So there is a balance there, but yeah. So this particular market, it's nuts. But it's got to the point to where even when I was working, we had this motto: it was first on, last off. So if you ever sit there and you watch these cut-ins, and they cut in the minute. Matter of fact, now they cut in before it even crosses the border in Oklahoma. They're still covering storms in Texas. They got to be the first one. So first on. And that's why you see them do that kind of stuff. And then the storms come in. And in the old days, a lot of times we would just take commercial breaks. The national commercial breaks, not local, because you don't want to cover up the ad revenue, right? But the national breaks are already paid for, and you don't get a chunk of that. So you cover those up, blow them out. Who cares? So that's usually the way it was done. Somehow, some way, then that gradually changed over to blow it all out and don't get off the air until the last person is you. And so the night you had, I think it was 5 and 9, trying to outdo one another at what, was it 2 o'clock in the morning? I forget now. Or it was close to 2, it was 1:30, whatever it was. And I was like, this thing's dead, it's over, it's done. There's no point in me being up anymore. But they were still going strong, and they were still trying to hype it up as though it's something big, bad, and ugly, and we got to stay here for you. In reality, they're holding on for ratings to see which one craves first in the game of chicken. So, but that's the motto. That's how that works behind the scenes. It's dirty. So I just gave you the insider tip of the dirtiness of the business. And there's so much more that I could tell you that I won't, but so I don't want to get in trouble. But that's kind of just how this weather market works. Now, again, not every weather market's going to be like this, but and probably none of them will be. But this is kind of how this one works. Yeah, it's seeing some of your comments pretty funny. The Kiss concert, by the way, Donovan, was awesome. Honestly, that was technically my first real rock concert, and man, for some 70-year-olds, dude, they kicked it. They put on a heck of a show, and the production quality in that over the top. So they went out with a bang for their last tour. So I was glad I got to see them in Tulsa. And I think, I don't know, that's about it. So I don't know, I gave you guys an extra 25 minutes of insider talk based off a couple of questions. So a lot of times I will see Ted Nugent, nice. So I will see a squirrel, and then I will lose track of what I was going to do because of the squirrel. But that happens. But that's good for you because you guys get insider knowledge on the industry and the business and the weather in general, and you get to learn more about it, and you get to know a little bit more about myself, at least how I think or view things, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending where we are today. Everybody gets canceled for everything, so I got to be real careful what I say. When you build an empire on social media, which cancels you for anything and everything the mob doesn't like or appreciate, well, then that's it. You're done. Just the stupidest thing in the world. So if that ever happens to me for whatever reason, I'm going to give the old fist one of these fingers going up. And that's how I'm going to treat that. And I'm going to keep on doing my thing. So nobody's going to cancel me. This is dumb. So anyway, but obviously I don't do anything to get canceled. But man, today's day and age, you can make anybody upset. So it's no telling. But I try to keep my nose straight, clean, and mind my P's and Q's the best I can. So that keeps me out of trouble most of the time. All right, let's see. It's about 10:30, so I'm going to wrap this up. And I will keep an eye on the monkey business for next week, and we'll see if we can get some snow in here. We'll narrow down the first official freeze, the way it's going to be for next week. And what else was it? I don't know, I guess we'll just see how the winds do tonight and tomorrow. So hopefully you've battened the hatches because it'll blow around. Last question, Chad. I see you on YouTube, and I use a lot of sites, so I probably have, I don't know. I've had so many links over the years that I've made. Some secret, some public. So for broadcasting, I use a set handful due to easy dissemination, something you guys can see, big font, that kind of stuff. But yeah, as a meteorologist, man, the more I can find is good for me, and just so I can get a good view of the atmosphere that I need to know. All right, I'm out. You guys have a great night tonight. Again, thank you for the stars on Facebook, and for the comments, the likes, the shares, and the support, and the follows. And we'll do this again later. See ya.